What's up, everybody? Ross's Boss here. Today, I am at the STRAT in Las Vegas, and I have a special guest with me, the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Scuderi, Director of Gaming Operations.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your role. What do you do as Director of Gaming Operations at the STRAT?
Oh, it's pretty simple. It's what it sounds like. I'm in charge of all gaming here at the property, table games, slots, anything on the casino floor.
And how long have you been at the STRAT?
I've been at the Strat almost 5 years now.
Okay, but I know you've been in Vegas longer than that.
Yeah, my career is over 40 years between Vegas and Macau.
Wow, Macau.
Yes.
How long were you in Macau?
When I worked for Wynn Resorts, I was there for 6 years when they opened up Wynn Macau.
What was that experience like?
Oh, that was amazing. One of a kind place. It really was. We had a great time there.
Awesome. Vegas has a lot of casinos. There's a lot of competition. What sets the Strat apart when it comes to the gaming experience?
We try to keep it a personal thing. You know, the dealers are encouraged to interact with all the guests on the table, from high-fiving to congratulating them to living and dying with their wins and losses. You know, we just want the guests to feel like they're part of the family, you know, that they can come here and get the same experience every single time. And whether that's on table games or in slots, the floor people there, they see a customer getting close to a jackpot, they'll go over there and root for them
Right.
to try to help them, you know, give them luck, so to speak. Yeah, we try to do that on every level of our operation.
And actually, something unique about the Strat, from what I understand, is that the dealers are allowed to keep their own tips. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. That's another level of motivation on their part.
Well, yeah. So just to explain, a lot of people, when you tip a dealer, you might think, they take it, they click it, and they drop it in their box. At just about every other casino, that box is then shared across everybody who's worked on that shift at a minimum. Sometimes it's even, longer, from what I understand. So, not to say that the dealers don't appreciate it, but it's a big difference if somebody goes home with, a few $100s or $500 or thousands of dollars. I mean, that makes somebody's day or their week. So you can imagine how exciting that is to be a dealer with a player who's winning and they're winning. And I think it just makes a much better experience.
Yeah, I'll agree 100% with that. There's maybe 3% of the casinos in the city that do this. We have found great success. Two predecessors ago, we started this, going for our own, coming out of COVID. We wanted to, again, up the customer experience, and we felt getting the dealers to have a stake in how the customers win and lose. You know, I mean, when they're winning, the dealers are happy because, you know, they got a shot at a toke.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they lose, they're very sympathetic, and the sympathy's real because they're not going to get toked when the player
Right.
loses.
Everybody is incentivized to do well together. And I will say, there's been a lot of chatter, I would say, online about, sometimes people feel like, hey, Vegas is really squeezing players, or they're trying to extract every last dollar, every last penny out of the player. And I want to go back to something that you were just saying before, which is like, you want people to come here and feel like they're family. And I could say, I got in last night, I've been walking the floor, everybody's friendly, everybody is personable. It feels like you guys want us here. And, what a novel experience. Like, it's funny, you would think that that should be table stakes, pun intended, but it's not everywhere,
No. Well, I mean, that starts at the CEO of the corporation. He came up through the gaming. He was a crap dealer, and so he knows firsthand, and it just comes right down through all the executives on property. My GM, he was from the gaming side, so
Very cool.
they all understand customer service right there on the front line, and so they send that message down through every level that this is vitally important to us, so that our brand, our culture seeps through to the customer, and that customer has that feeling. I mean, it's down to someone asking for directions, and instead of just pointing them in a direction, we encourage the staff, hey, walk him over. I don't
Mhm.
care if you come back late from your break. That doesn't matter. Take care of that guest.
Right.
Walk that guest as far as you can.
Yeah. And
Make them feel special.
that's really the hospitality that Vegas was built around. And sometimes some places have kind of lost their way, to be honest. I think you guys are doing a great job of kind of that original old school Vegas feel, and with a modern, clean, beautiful property. So I want to ask you a question. You're in charge of all the games. I always tell people you have to play rated. You have to. I just I just got a player's card. I'll be
Mhm.
using that later. I post videos about how important it is to play rated. Otherwise, you're quite literally leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the specials you have and how beneficial it is if you are actually playing rated?
Yeah, you're talking about our midweek multipliers. For slots, we'll go 8 times, 10 times, and that translates into multi games and tables. Every level, we'll do a multiplier, and that just allows a player to get more points in the system for the same play they normally give you every other day. And to be frank, it's midweek, so that we encourage midweek business. And so a lot of customers like that because it's a little quieter and they get a better choice of the games they want to play.
Right.
And it's worked very well. As far as being rated, it's the only way to go.
Yeah.
Really.
Every time I post about this, without fail, somebody says in the comments, I don't play rated because when I'm winning, they come in and they make me lose. So let's settle this once and for all. When I'm up and you're keeping track of
Mhm.
how I'm betting, do you have someone come in and change the cards so that I start losing?
Not here, no.
Not here. Okay.
Yeah, no, we don't do that. I mean, we put the cards on. You see them being shuffled. They go into the shuffle machine, and that machine makes sure every card's there. We don't mess with that. We don't have to.
Right.
I
Exactly.
mean, to do something like that is just, to me, it's crazy.
Yeah,
And
it
I've
doesn't
been
make
around
any
here a
sense.
long time, and I've never worked in a place that did it.
Right.
It just, I've
You-
never seen it done.
You don't send in the cooler dealer to, burn a card and change everything up.
I won't say every casino has that same attitude,
Yeah.
but I can guarantee you here at Strat, we would never do that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if a dealer going for their own is getting toked, I'd have a
Right.
riot on my hands with my staff if
Yeah.
anything like that ever
That's true.
happened.
See, it's even the incentives are even more aligned
Yeah.
for the dealer and player.
The whole misconception with that is some people think we want to beat everybody.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
Right.
I mean, if we beat every person, there would be no one left to play.
Right.
You can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
It's look, the games are the games, and if you come in here, you understand what you're up against.
Exactly.
I mean, but it's about the entertainment of the
Exactly.
guest.
That's what I say. You're here for fun. We know there's a house edge. That's the arrangement we're in. We know how it works. We're trying to have fun in the short term. Maybe we win, maybe we lose. We had a great time. We had some drinks with some friends. We enjoyed the property. This is the exchange of value that exists. A lot of times people ask me, does it matter what you buy in for at a table? So I'll give you a scenario. I sit down with $10,000 and I play $25 a hand for an hour, or I sit down with $500 and I play $50 a hand for an hour.
You're going to get rated better with the $50 average.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to being rated, the buy-in doesn't matter in the rating.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with it. What matters most is how long you play in the game and what your average bet is. That's why we encourage guests, if you have a question, ask the supervisor what he rated. So they're allowed to tell you right then and there what they have at the rating.
Right.
So we have no problem telling the guests that,
Right.
look, we saw you playing this.
Right.
And that's what matters the most. Time played, average bet. It doesn't matter if you buy in for 10,000 and you only risk 200 of it.
Right.
Well, to me, you're a $200 player.
Right.
Because that's what you risk.
Right. Exactly.
So if you want a good rating, time played, average bet.
Right. And what he was just saying about how you can ask a supervisor, they can tell you what you're rated. Not every place is like that, to be honest. Or if you do ask, sometimes they feel like they're insulted that you're kind of like questioning them.
Mhm.
And it's like I've played at casinos where I've bought in and I've lost $1,000 before the pit boss has even come over to swipe me in. They're on the phone and they're looking over like, oh yeah, I'll get to this guy, and I'm like,
Yeah.
another 200, another 200. So like, just as you said, it starts with the top, like saying, look, we know it's an exchange of value. There's no harm in telling the players what they're
No.
rated at, and I'm sure if there was a discrepancy, say, well, actually, I was doing this or this, so you guys figure it out.
Well, I mean, we do.
Yeah.
If there's a large discrepancy and a player disputes it, we'll look into it, and we'll give an honest answer.
Yeah.
I've had so many players, they ask to see the footage. I'm sorry, you're not seeing the footage. Okay.
Right. That's a bridge too far.
Get that thought out of your mind. That's not happening.
Right.
But we do give you an honest answer. There's no reason not to.
Right.
And every operator I know, if they do this for you, they're going to give you an honest answer.
Absolutely.
Because the customer experience for us is what matters. If you don't have a good experience, you're not going to recommend us to your friends.
Right. Exactly.
You're not going to come back and visit us again.
Right.
And that's our goal. Our goal is to create an ongoing relationship. And that's at every level of our business.
Yeah.
We want to create that ongoing relationship with all our guests.
Right. And it comes across. You can feel it. I want to ask you a couple more questions about games. Craps, I believe do you guys have 10x odds on the craps here? Okay, so you guys have done tons of videos about how the best bet in the casino is the odds bet in craps, okay? Now, there's 0% house edge on that bet, but in order to get access to that bet, you have to bet the pass line. So when you average out what you put on the odds and on the pass line, it lowers the house edge. So the more you can put on the odds bet, the better the less advantage the house has, and the better chance of winning you have. So most casinos on the strip have what's called 3, 4, 5x odds. They cap you at 5x. So the strat literally does double of that. So they're giving you twice as good of a game. Being able to put 10x odds on your bet.
Everything you said is so true.
All right. See, Frank is giving me some props. I'm not as advanced as him, but
you hit the nail on the head with what you said about betting odds. I see players not make that bet. I just shake my head.
Yeah.
And I say, thank you.
Exactly.
We're giving you a freebie here.
Right.
Every casino does it. And players that don't take advantage of that freebie are shortchanging themselves.
Right. Right. One more question about craps. You guys have a unique setup here in that I believe you only have crapless craps on the floor.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. We
had a mix. We did have a regular crap game. And when we opened all the tables, the regular game stood dead.
Yeah.
If we could open 2 games and we did one crapless, one regular, I had the customers coming to me complaining, hey, I don't want to play that. Open the other one.
Right.
And it would stand dead.
Right.
So, I mean, you're foolish if you don't listen to your customers.
Absolutely.
So in this property, the customers want to play crapless. Yeah. This is the place, when Bob Stupak owned it, that they created Crapless Craps.
Really?
Here. Yes.
That's some strat folklore.
Oh, yeah. When it was called Vegas World. Look it up. Vegas World. And then Stupak made the Stratosphere, and we've continued the tradition he started. It's home.
The birthplace of Crapless Craps, the STRAT Las Vegas. You've been in the industry for 40 years.
Yeah.
You got to have some crazy stories.
Yeah, one of the most unique things about this business is no 2 days are ever the same. Something always happens. I mean, yesterday is a good example. It was a quiet day. We were just rolling along, and then customers playing Heads Up Hold'em, and he pops for a $31,000 jackpot.
Wow.
So that pumps a little excitement into the place. Everybody's looking at him. He's happy. And later on, about 5 o'clock, I'm driving home. And what happens? I get a phone call. Hey, the guy just hit the blackjack jackpot for $117,000.
Wow.
He was a young guy. He was in his 30s, and 2 times in one day. It's just one of those things. And no, we don't get upset when you hit jackpots. That's what they're there for. And it was great. The staff all celebrated with him, and he went home a happy young man.
There you have it.
Every day's new.
We won't ask about like Lake Mead and any, mafia stuff. We'll just take that story. That's a good one. Everybody's happy with that. All right, Frank. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys learned something and stay boss. Thank you. Really appreciate it.